Hello, we're reading from Desmond Tutu's Believe. It's a nice little book. and, oh, I think I left off here. So, let's read some more about Desmond Tutu. Tutu was born of rainbow parents, to use a metaphor he would apply many decades later to the nation. His father was a Xhosa speaker, his mother a Matswana from a different language group and culture. According to patriarchal custom, the family spoke the father's language and followed Xhosa tradition. Tutu was the couple's third child. The first son had died in infancy, and he himself seemed destined for the same fate. Sickly from birth, within his first year he contracted polio, a disease then with a mortality rate of 25%. His father, convinced the baby boy would die, prepared a funeral, but against the odds Tutu recovered, although his right hand had atrophied. Over the years he developed the habit of rubbing his hand to improve the circulation. In the political turbulence of the 1980s, the gesture would be interpreted by the detractors as evidence of a troublesome priest's guilt and duplicity. The young Tutu had no sooner recovered from the polio than he had to be hospitalized with serious burns to his thigh. On an icy winter morning, he stood too close to an outdoor brazier and his pajamas caught fire. As if the traumas were not enough, his father's occupation as a school teacher took him from one school to another, and the family had to move again. Then, because his income proved insufficient, Tutu's mother was forced to seek domestic work in distant Johannesburg to supplement the family's finances. Eventually, when Tutu began his high school years, the family was reunited in the township of Munseville or Muntsville or Muncieville. For some of the time prior, Tutu lived in a hostel in Town near his mother. He greatly admired her, found her gentle, compassionate, and caring, always ready to take the side of the underdog, always prepared to share, qualities which would manifest time and again in his own life. Once, on a cold railway station, as he waited for the early morning train to school, he noticed the boy shivering in the cutting wind. Quickly he took off one of his two jerseys he wore and gave it to the boy, begging his sister not to tell their mother. The young Tutu, while occupied with his own world, was increasingly becoming aware of a racial divide. White people had better houses, better schools. Their children often threw away their lunch sandwiches half eaten, which he found strange but initially did not question, as he did not question the hunger that drove his friends to scavenge these remains from the trash bins. Yet when a shopkeeper called his father boy, Tutu bristled at the insult, just as he marveled when a white priest greeted his mother by doffing his hat. White people did not treat black people with any respect, and this fact deeply affected the future archbishop. Tutu's high school years were spent at the progressive, well-respected, if robust Western High, near Bohemian Johannesburg suburb of Sophiatown. 10 years later, in the mid-1950s, the community would be forcibly removed to various townships and the area occupied by whites and renamed Triumph. In the meantime, it provided a culturally rich and uncharacteristically non-racial background to his schooling. 2 years into his time at Western High, 14-year-old Tutu contracted tuberculosis. For the next 20 months, he was confined to a state-run sanatorium. Yet not even this depressing institution could quell Tutu's inherent optimism. When his friends visited, he wanted to know what they had learned in school. When they brought him comics, he asked for novels instead. It was during these months that he began a friendship with Father Trevor Huddleston, a legendary priest of Sophiatown, who would try to intercede on his parishioners' behalf when removal started. Huddleston greatly influenced Tutu's religious direction, for although the Tutu family were devout worshippers, their adherence was more to the central concepts of Christianity than to any denomination. Although Tutu was baptized a Methodist, Tutu left the sanatorium with a sense of the spiritual, which was to intensify over the years, and a leaning toward the Anglican Church. He became more involved in the local parish church and would often slip off to pray, occasionally for as long as an hour. So that's Tutu. A lot of trauma in his young life. A lot of trauma. But he survived it. He struggled through it. And their racism, remember, a lot of racism around the world was based on United States racism. So a lot of what South Africa did was based on the United States and the black codes and based on the plantations society. What Adolf Hitler did was based on United States social structure and ethnic and racial purity structures. So just always remember that. So when people say that black Americans suffered in a different way, not more or less, you got to understand what that means. And black Americans should understand that if all these people were all these racist societies were getting their plans from here, we were suffering under the masters of racial injustice, and we're still here. We're barely hanging in there, but we're here. And that's an accomplishment in and of itself. Until next time, I appreciate your support. Take care of your mind, take care of your body, and be safe.